weirdos. Here's the structure for this video. We're gonna do, and I'm telling you the structure so that all of you that have a fragile constitution can save yourselves in advance. We're gonna do news on the news, like we've been doing, and then I'm gonna go through the military care package that I put together and sent off this week. And I'm telling you that that is coming because nothing in this box that I put together is Christian. They're men. Like, you don't get men emotional gifts. You get them gifts that are related to their ding-dongs or to boobs or to both. You don't get a man a journal if he's like fighting abroad. He's not going to use that. He's going to use the journal to draw pictures of ding-dongs and boobs. So like, anyway, as we get closer to that, just pack up all your feelings and head somewhere else because I don't want to hear that you were offended because you were warned. Okay? I am going to show you what I put in it because men can be really hard to buy for because they're not like us. Like, you get us a bar of soap in a different scent and we're like, ooh, lavender. So easy to buy for. But, you know, men are like complicated because they don't have feelings. And they don't get excited about anything unless you buy them like a ride-around lawnmower. And that's too expensive and they're not going to use it anyway, so what's the point? So the things that I put in here, I thought were funny and wildly inappropriate. But I think he'd laugh when he got it. So anyway, I'll show you what I got there. And then I'll show you the bathroom. I finished the bathroom. I already showed you the penny countertop. And then I finished the rest of the bathroom. And then from this point, I gotta go rip apart the bedroom. It seems like I'll have plenty of time to do so, though, as North Carolina just drags on the endless shutdown. We have a no-plan plan that involves a lot of planning on the planning to delay the plan to open. Yeah, he's real smart. Okay, lots of fun comments about my cat butthole mask. And I saw there was an overwhelming response asking me if I would put this on and wear it around Walmart to get reactions. And I'm not going to do that because it's impossible to walk around and shoot yourself and other people at the same time. That's really complicated. And if you bring a camera into a store like that, chances are you'll meet their security team real soon. But does anyone want to buy this? I don't want it. I'll send it to you. It did remind me of a story that I told a member of Patreon who works in Walmart, and I'll share it real quick because it's like classic Casey Roman shitstorm. And it happened before I left for my big trip. I was at the Walmart gas station, and the Scion has this like itty bitty gas tank, and you have to manually pump the gas because it will like click off automatically. So, you know, being the cheap ass that I am, I'm like trying so hard to like top off the gas tank, get every drop in a gas tank that costs like $10 to fill up. And I was like not paying attention, shocking. And the gas just flooded out of the tank and sprayed all over my jeans, like soaked my jeans. And I'm standing there with freezing cold in winter with these, you know, wet gasoline pants, and gasoline has like this pungent smell, you know. But I had to go into the store because I had to return some stuff. And I'm all about efficiency, so I didn't want to have to drive all the way home and then turn around, like change pants, and then drive all the way back. That just seemed really inconvenient to me. So I did the thing that you shouldn't do when you have gasoline-soaked pants. I went into the store. Of course I went into the store. And somewhere in my brain, God said, Casey, do not walk into the store smelling like gasoline. And then Satan said, you are not a fucking quitter. Get in there. And so I did. I walked in the store and I reasoned that if I just made it quick, like nobody would notice. So I'm standing in the line for customer service, which if you've ever been in my favorite store on earth, Walmart, you know that there is no getting through customer service quick. There's very little customer service in customer service. You're lucky if they even talk to you. So I'm standing there, and then I start to notice that the people in front of me are doing this. I'm like, shit. They can smell it. I mean, I could feel it. It was like on my skin at this point. And I'm like, okay, just a little bit quicker. And like, then they start to chat about it. Like, do you smell gas? This manager comes walking down and stops right in the middle of the big walkway to the exit. And he does the smell thing. And then I see him pick up his little walkie-talkie, like, ET phone home headset. And he calls in and he said, we have a smell of gas in the building. And then it occurs to me that if I don't come clean about what's going on here, that they're going to call the fire department, and then like the news will be here, and because there's a gas leak in Walmart. So I finally had to yell out, like, I got gasoline all over my pants. And these people looked at me, like, once they looked down at my pants and saw they were soaked, they were like, oh my God, what the fuck is the matter with you? I'm like, I just had a return. This is just a normal day in the life. But there was no way in holy hell for how many people I know at our fire department, including an ex, that I was going to have all of them show up and have to explain to them why I caused a stampede at Walmart that night. No, they would enjoy it too much. No. And the best part of that was, the only good part of that was that I got moved right up to the front of the line. So, anyway, there you go. There's your story time. All right, let's knock out news on the news, because right behind me is a gallon teacup waiting for evening tea time. So we got to speed this up. All right, this is a subject near and dear to my heart. This was not all over the news, but lightly covered. Where, let me pull up my this here laptop. All right, so a couple photographers have done this now, and it should really get more coverage than it is getting. But what they did was, and this speaks to my soul because I'm a photographer, and like, this happens in a lot of stories, right? I'll give you an example. When I covered the North Carolina hog trials, which are still going on, our hog farms owned by Smithfield are being sued for like hundreds of millions of dollars. And check the comments. Somewhere down there, some ignorant potato will write something about how Smithfield is a Chinese company, how North Carolina sends their pork to China and then back here, and like all kinds of just, how they abuse the animals, just all day long. When I would go into the hog houses, there was always this phenomenon where there's this runway down the middle, and because you are the new shiny thing in the hog house, all the hogs rush up to the front gate on their respective pens. And so when I was getting video, I had to constantly jack up my tripod to get a wide shot of the entire hog house, because they're huge. Because the hogs would like all cluster on top of each other at the front, and then you'd have this empty square footage like all in the back where they weren't. And I remember shooting that and thinking like, oh, okay, this is how some of these activists get these photos that make it look like the hogs are crammed in on top of each other, because if I lower the camera and I only shoot tight shots, then it looks like the hogs are stacked on top of one another. But what you don't see, because you have to lift up the camera and get the full wide angle, is that there's all this unused space. They're crowding to sniff you and seduce some food out of your hand. So knowing how a lens works will often show you how media can manipulate an image to make it seem like what it's not. Real estate photos are criticized for this all the time. When I shoot a home for a real estate listing, I use a wide-angle lens. A wide-angle lens has curvature so that it captures more of a tiny room, like a bathroom, or maybe living rooms can sometimes be crowded with all the furniture. And so it's designed to do that. It's not necessarily meant to lie to you, but like that is the nature of the lens. And then people go see the house and they're like, oh, the pictures made it look so big. So what these photographers have been doing, much to their credit, is like, let's take a look at this one. This photographer, Luke W., he shows us the wide photo, right? So if you're using a telescopic lens, if you were like all the way back, you were not zoomed in, this is what it would have looked like. And then if you zoom in a little bit more, well, then the photo starts to look busy because as you zoom with your lens, you shorten the perceived distance between items because you're not getting the full picture, right? And then this one, he steps all the way back and uses his lens to zoom completely in, thereby sort of like flattening the distance between buildings, and it looks as though these people are just totally crowded together. But if we go back to the original photo, which was kind of like his medium frame, that's not the case. And so this has been going on, especially at the beaches, where the photographer or reporters will go up to like the main entryway, which is always the most crowded because it's right by the parking, and they'll shoot a cropped photo, and it looks like people are stacked on top of one another. The best example was two Danish photographers. They went out and did this exact same exercise. And this is perhaps my favorite. So here we have a line of people that look like they are on top of one another. But when you go out to the wide angle lens, then they are social distancing. They are doing exactly what they should be doing. Okay? And same thing with some of these other ones. You know, it looks like on top that there's a crowd, and then we get the full picture, and oh, not so much. And like, this is this not exactly what we're talking about when we say distortions in the media? Is that if you only take a little piece of something and don't take the whole picture, figuratively and literally, then you can make anything look and seem like anything. You know, and media gets criticized a lot with quotes that way, is if you just take this piece and you don't provide everything else, then you can make it sound however you want. And these photos are really important right now because as states reopen, any kind of media outlet or reporter who is hell-bent on keeping this economy closed to the point of leveling it, because they don't understand how money works, they will show these photos where it looks like everything is totally packed, and I'm gonna guess that in a lot of cases that was a very deliberate use of a zoom or a crop on the final photo. So just something to consider as you're actually looking at different photos. All right, this one I'm pretty sure that you have already heard of, but I need to mention it again because it so grinds my gears. Remember those yummy doctors I told you about last week? Oh, gosh, just delicious. YouTube took down that video. Okay, so you probably heard that part. YouTube took down the video, and what is fascinating about the argument of that is that it wasn't like they were just these two guys in their mom's basement doing a conspiracy video. I mean, have you searched some of the people producing videos on coronavirus right now? I mean, all kinds of batshit crazy theories and conspiracy theories and homemade cures, and like all that is allowed to stay. But what happened with these doctors? These doctors got over 5 million views. So you know, the world will pay attention to what you're saying if you get enough of an audience. But everyone else, like, that is okay. All those lunatics self-producing video at home, that's allowed. But this was a TV station, a local TV station, that actually interviewed them and asked questions, thereby allowing for some context, and posted it on their TV station YouTube channel, and it got taken down. And this is perhaps the most overt attempt at censorship that I may be able to ever to recall. I can't think of anything that is just so black and white like that. Really, really terrible. It said that they violated the community guidelines. So I went, because you know my channel has long been demonetized now and no one's given me a reason, and one of the things that they said could be a reason is if I violated the guidelines. Well, I went back and watched the guidelines and then read the guidelines, and I have not violated them, and neither have these doctors. Like, you know, one of them is that there can't be any nudity. There was no nudity in there. And that's laughable because obviously then YouTube isn't watching any of the van life videos where it's just all side boob all the time. Okay, so none of it actually violated the guidelines, but then they came with a backup statement that said, we quickly remove flagged content that violate our community guidelines, including content that explicitly disputes the efficacy of local health authority recommended guidance on social distancing that may lead others to act against that guidance. Just, again, there's plenty of videos all over YouTube about people saying that social distancing is a joke and the pandemic is, manufactured by the government who wants socialism, and all that can stay up, but not this, right? However, content that provides sufficient educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic context is allowed. For example, news coverage of this interview with additional context. How much more additional context did you need? They allowed more than one reporter to ask questions. In fact, that one reporter jumped down the doctor's throats about everything that they said, including what other health experts were saying. Right? So you had a dialogue of two parties on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, going back and forth, asking questions. Which, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And that's not allowed. That they have very clear policies. And then in a couple other news releases, they talked about how that they are removing content that violates WHO guidelines. And that is the funniest thing of all that, because who's getting grilled right now, deservingly. How about we go back and look at some of the absolute brilliance that has come out of WHO. Let's go back to their tweet from January 14th. That said, preliminary investigations conducted by Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus. Why is that still up? Why was it even said in the first place? Because by January, as far as I recall, we knew that it was spreading human to human. So no clear evidence of it. These are the Mensa members working at WHO, still up on their Twitter, who made this claim. And then perhaps the most irritating, at least right now, of their whims is that they told people, do not wear face masks. And they told people this a minute ago. Don't wear face masks. They're not working. And now people are obsessed to wear face masks. So, I get it. You're the World Health Organization. Maybe you're new at this, but you have a private media company that has for years operated as essentially the public town square for people to get up on their box, so to speak, and express their freedom of speech in a way that is not push media, meaning you have the choice to click on it or not. And it's always functioned in that way. And so now we have a private media company deciding on which health information is okay for you to hear and which isn't, and still allowing all the batshit crazy garbage to exist, but pulling that specific. Just my opinion, they pulled that specific because those guys had a credible press review. They were using their own data. They were obviously not fanatical. They were educated. And in this day and age, if you say anything that's contrarian to the masses, then you are a target. And this is important, not just, it pisses me off because I think what they had to say was important for people to hear, really important. And that it's deleted is against how media is supposed to act. But when you participate in a government that censors speech like that, if that's not a red flag to you, I don't know what is. And furthermore, if that becomes a habit and that's a new policy, then you can erase all contrarian opinions, and then you don't have a diversity of information to educate yourself on. Other countries operate this, China. Or Korea, North Korea, where the media is controlled by the government. And, I don't want the United States of America to be anything like how they operate. So it's important to get upset about things like this. It also poses a huge ethical issue for yours truly, because when I saw that my TV station was super anti-law enforcement and super liberal, and we weren't covering things from all corners and we were just putting out cheap content, I left. I left for a variety of reasons, but that was some of them. And so if I continue to publish on a medium that restricts a diversity of opinion, am I not furthering their initiatives? I mean, they're not making money for me right now because there's, no ads running, but that still poses a problem for people like me who need a platform but don't want to play a part in like censorship palooza with whatever YouTube's whims are. I mean, they can take down this channel at any time, right? And then the last one that will, and admittedly, I'm kind of going broad on these this week because I can't watch the White House. And they haven't been having them that much right now. It's the same thing they say every single time. But let's talk about New York, because when I put up that I wasn't wearing a mask, and that I kind of think that a lot of this has just gone way too far. People who have suckled right up onto the teat of mainstream media and believe whatever they hear on the TV box and then parrot it back onto the internet as though they thought of it themselves. They would say, well, do you want North Carolina to be like another New York? Or everyone cites what's going on in New York as though the entire continental United States operates like downtown Manhattan. And in fact, we've made policies and rules that treat much of the United States as though it's downtown Manhattan. I have lived in downtown Manhattan, and I've spent a lot of time on the western part of the state. It's amazing that they're even in the same state. Totally different. New York City is way more liberal. It's, crowded. You've got a ton of people there, and it's all urban. And then on the western part of the state, it's heavily rural, heavily Catholic, heavily conservative. Okay? Two different worlds. All under the leadership of Governor Cuomo. Well, so I saw all these things about obsessing about New York, and then I have read an ungodly amount of comments and social media posts talk like all this fawning over Cuomo and like he's so much better and he needs to be the Democratic nominee and like kiss the rings. And I'm thinking, y'all must not have known him before this, okay? New York State has had a history of egregious government spending and waste. The media is so far up his ass on like worshiping the ground he walks on because he makes a couple passionate speeches and because he gets into a tiff with the federal government that he's not getting everything he needs, that we totally sidestep how his administration handled what they got and how they handled their budget going up to it, which set the stage for a lot of the issues they ended up having. So some news agencies have finally started to like go into this about New York and Cuomo and like whether or not so many of you people who have just heard of this guy should be erecting a statue of him in your village center and throwing rose petals at his feet every day. But let's talk about some of the ones that are not getting enough attention, okay? So to all you people who say that I'm going to turn North Carolina into another New York, probably not. All right, so during all this, Cuomo ordered the Department of Health to give a decree to the nursing homes. Now, nursing homes, when you divvy up the data, the bulk of deaths or the majority are coming from nursing homes where like they get these widespread infections, right? And so we have all these people. Who is in a nursing home? The most vulnerable. If we know that older people who have pre-existing conditions are the most vulnerable, well, duh, that would be our nursing home. Cuomo tells the Department of Health to tell the nursing homes that they cannot not accept a patient from a hospital using a positive COVID test as the only reason to reject them. Okay? So in simpler terms, if you had COVID, we can send you to a nursing home to get sort of like outpatient treatment. So you took a human petri dish and sent it in to the places with the people who were most vulnerable. And we're surprised that we have these mass casualty events at our nursing homes. How in the hell do you explain that to the spouses, to the children, to the grandchildren of these people who were on fragile care as it is, and then you rolled a COVID patient into them. So in New York, you're not allowed to go get your hair cut if you are totally healthy, but we'll shove an atom bomb of disease into grandma's nursing home. Like, leadership? Are you kidding? Whose idea was that? Oh yeah, the guy that some of you are just fawning all over on social media because he made some really dramatic couple of speeches. Okay. All right. Next. So we finally have this week some outlets talking about waste, right? Because all we heard from New York was that people were dying in the streets, and it wasn't New York. New York had no skin in the game, and it was totally the federal government and all this other stuff. So FEMA is now shutting down the 2,500 bed Javits Center, right? That we were, the whole argument here has been that we were going to completely overrun our hospitals. I checked our hospital here in New Hanover County, and the parking lot is like practically empty. Okay, the healthcare system nationwide, especially in New York, is on its own critical care right now because they are furloughing doctors. Their income has been like slashed because it just went all COVID all the time, based on what the information that we were getting, that they didn't have enough. So the Javits Center becomes a 2,500 bed. It is barely used. It is now shutting down. Remember that Navy ship? That big old boat that was there for like a hot minute, also gone. Cuomo took a picture in front of that it was going to save lives. And yeah, it was there for like how long? Enough to drop the anchor. And it didn't relieve the hospitals because they didn't need the relief, and now it's leaving. Do you have any idea how much money it cost to move that damn thing? For no reason. It just sat out in the harbor. Great. And then the construction of a $136 million Stony Brook Field Hospital. $136 million. Barely used. Barely used. All this money, okay? Because that was the message that we got, was that it wasn't enough, and it was all someone else's fault. And so now we have all this government waste that the taxpayers of New York are now going to be saddled with, or the healthcare system, okay? And meanwhile, this is from a governor, and this there's been some misinformation about this. Some news outlets said that Cuomo, during coronavirus, that they voted for a raise for him, and that's not true. The raise was put back in place in 2018, but it doesn't matter, because after 2021, he will be, with his new raise, I think it was $250,000 a year. $250,000 a year, with the highest paid governor in the United States of America. All right, so all these governors, and this is the guy who then told the people in New York that if you want a job, if you want to work, if you want your small business back, if you want any of your livelihood back, you should just go be an essential worker. A guy who's the highest paid governor in the United States of America, who makes $250,000 a year as of next year. That is the smug attitude he says. These governors who live in a mansion that we pay for, when they I'm sorry, but honestly, you can't relate. When are some of you going to take a pay cut, right? The rest of us had to. We didn't get to choose how this was going to be handled. We voted your dumbasses in there, and now we're crippled without any way to make a living, or barely a way to make a living, while you all still have full pay. Your houses, your mansions are paid. Someone drives your ass around. You don't pay the utility bill. Yeah, but you get it. So relatable. Okay. So I thought, well, if you called for all these beds, if you called for the ventilators, oh God, the ventilators. In 2006, New York put a pandemic plan in place. Say that 10 times fast. And at the time, they only had a couple hundred ventilators on hand, right? And then a lot of those just went by the wayside because of other budget cuts and all that. So going into this, they had like this much of the plan that they needed, and then all those passionate speeches where he was saying that tens of thousands of people were going to die if we didn't get the ventilators. So the federal government charges private companies to stop what you're doing and make all these ventilators, which are so expensive to make. Complicated equipment. And they're like throwing them at New York because that's what he said, when tens of thousands of people are going to die. And now they are giving them back. They do not need them. And then another example of just horrible government waste. There was an electrical engineer. I will not be able to say this name right. Yaron Oren, whatever his name is. Here's the tweet, okay? This guy, who's an electrical engineer in Silicon Valley, responds to a tweet and says, "We can make these ventilators. Just call us. We will get you however many ventilators you need." So that's what New York does. Off a tweet. New York spends $69 million to buy ventilators off this guy via his pitch on Twitter. The cost of the ventilators was 3 times the retail price, and they never arrived. New York never got them. So I go to look at this guy's Twitter account. If I had known that I could get the government to buy things off of Twitter and make up my own prices, I would have been selling these all day long. Cuomo, just 53 million, and I will have as many as you need. Honestly. So I look up this guy on Twitter, and he has 128 followers. I mean, if that does not seem totally credible to send $69 million to get ventilators, who is doing the purchasing in New York? Like, what? Again, for all of you fawning all over this guy, this is like what has been going on that maybe you're not worried about because you don't pay tax in New York State, but people in New York State have been dealing with this for ages. And that leads to my last point. I thought, you know what? I can understand you've never been through a pandemic before. Your hospitals for a period of time were really busy, as hospitals should plan to be occasionally, because we do have mass events. And so maybe like you panicked and you ordered too much and you were scared, and that I can get that. We've all made panic buys. So then I tried to look around and see what has been the more specific spending patterns of New York under this guy who has such great leadership that you now want him for the Democratic nominee. Here's a little history. $15 million was allocated in emergency spending for a gondola for a state fair. New York State, who has thousands of trails for outdoor activities, I can attest to that. I used many of them when I was on my trip. $200 million to add to finish off what was then affectionately renamed the Trail to Nowhere. And then $50 million was spent as an investment in a solar panel factory. You all know how much I just love solar. That factory was then taken over by Tesla, and Tesla was like, yeah, we don't really want any of these solar panels. So the taxpayers of New York State got to eat pretty much all of that $50 million bill. So that's just a couple examples. If you're curious at all, you can find plenty online of ways that New York has just completely bombed on their government spending. And I tell you that because I'm so tired of seeing hero worship over this guy who has not handled New York State's taxpayer money responsibly as a good steward of their money. And, a few things people see on the internet and like they're worshiping him into the role of presidency. I don't think so. Do a little bit more homework before you throw your vote behind someone. Like, look at their resume and their history of how they handle things before you tell me how great this guy is. All right, let's move on to the part, pause, intermission. If you are fragile, sensitive, if you don't like adult words, if you get your feelings hurt easily, if you haven't left already, I would leave now because I'll show you the video of when I put together the military care box. Sent that off this week. I know he got it, although in true man form, didn't say a word about it. So, whatever. You know, just so sweet. But I had so much fun putting it together that I don't even care. I don't even care. All right, so let's do that, and then I will show you the bathroom. So I have a friend who is deploying soon, and so the Romans, I come from a short line of war heroes, like super short. So I had some cousins who fought in Afghanistan, and when they were in Afghanistan, I was in Asheville working at the Biltmore estate, and I wrote like handwritten letters, and it was just so cool because, not that death was imminent for them, that wasn't cool, but just, you know, nobody sends mail anymore, so like you actually had to put some thought and effort into what was valuable enough to say so that you didn't send like a manuscript. And it was a really meaningful way of communicating, and so I really enjoyed doing that with them. And then both my grandfathers were total badass military. John McGovern on my mother's side, you may have seen, I think it was 60 Minutes, did like a mini documentary about him and his brother and like the crazy shit they did in Laos. And so both of them, like from their military background, completely distorted my standards in men, because now I'm like, well, do you have a Purple Heart? No? Okay. Have you ever been tortured? No? Oh, okay. Actually, the guy's probably looking at me and being like, this kind of feels like torture. It would really take a man in counterintelligence to deal with all this, because I am a handful. Anywho, so this friend of mine, it's a mutual friend of JB and I's. You know JB, you remember JB, because JB is the guy who sheltered me in Dead Barbara's house that was full of roaches. If you missed that video, I would encourage you to go find it. So anyway, our mutual friend is taking off, and so I just went shopping because, you know, I don't get to give pre-deployment gifts that much. And let me say that originally I thought that I was going to ship this to where he's headed on the other side of the ocean. And then since most of it is like highly inappropriate, because you can get away with that stuff with your guy friends. And I will some of this stuff I'm not going to show you because some of you are really fragile, like really fragile. I don't know how you like got lost and made a wrong turn after the adventures of Man Bun and Side Boob and like found me, but some of you I don't think can handle everything that I bought. So I'll just show you the stuff that I think is okay. But I am going to show it to you because they're funny. Some of the stuff is really funny. Some of the stuff you all suggested on Patreon, and like they are like good guy gifts. So just buckle up. And if you have a fragile constitution, then like go read the Bible. Like this is not really the channel for you. Okay, well let's start with, so I got the right bag, and now it says something on the other side, which I'm not going to show you. Reference fragile people. But I got the right bag, I think, the right bag. And he's like a, you know, and then the right bow, because I don't want it to, I want it to match. Again, I thought that he was going to be opening this like in a tent in the desert somewhere. So this is a pre-deployment bag because, like, I guess, you know, you can't send testicle deodorant to the Middle East. I didn't know. Reference testicle deodorant. So on Patreon, I put a post up and I said, you know, I don't really know what to get. What does the modern man need in a pre-deployment? And they said, someone popped in and said, Manscaped. Get all the Manscaped things. I was like, Manscaped? So this is actually, it's called Crop Preserver. I feel like Vanna White, but there are testicles involved. I don't actually know. Take a shower, towel off until your goodies are dry. Do men really need instructions like this? Rub a small amount of crop preserver onto your balls and... I don't know why that's funny. I guess because it's so blunt. Like, female care products use, like, really ethereal language. And this is definitely a guy wrote this. Rub this on your balls. There's 2 directions. That's how you know it's designed by a man. Because, like, with a woman, you know, it would come with a pamphlet that was written in 8 different languages. No, not Manscaped. Made by men for men. Just rub it right on your balls. Let's see what the caution is. For external use only, do not apply directly to tip of penis. Okay. Crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant. And you all, gentlemen, will be thrilled to know no sulfates, parabens, or dyes. So this was, and it's funny that this even exists, but a guy suggested this on Patreon, and he said, look, he said, you don't understand. Like, chafing is a real thing, and like get this stuff. They'll really appreciate it. And if they're, you know, in military, you know, garb, whatever it's called, they will actually appreciate this. I don't have any sympathy for you men. You're like, yeah, chafing. Like, you all get chafing. Our parts can kill us. Okay? And you all can get killed by chasing our parts. So I guess it's even. So I only went for this. I was strictly going to buy this. And then I get on the Manscaped website and I see that there's like a variety of stuff. Well, I have to have it. So I didn't stop there. Then I added, this is just crop cleanser. And this one, it doesn't reference balls specifically, so this is just full body. Let's see how it smells. I shouldn't open this. I won't ruin it. I doubt it smells like lavender and hibiscus. I'm sure it smells like gasoline and lust. That's a good name for a product line. Someone write that down. We're gonna come up with our own testicle deodorant. And the brand name will be Gasoline and Lust. I like that. Okay, don't let me forget that. I actually really like that idea. I have a journal around somewhere where I collect all my business ideas. I don't actually start 99% of them because I get distracted buying crop deodorant. Oh, all right, and then this was not necessary. But you know how, like, women, we love, like, towelettes? You know, because we're too lazy to wash our face. So we have all these like makeup remover towelettes. They're horrible for the environment. Horrible. Well, now men can have them too. Crop mop ball wipes with active pH control. So this I was thinking, like, you know, and I don't know what it's like to be in war, but, you know, like, let's say you're chasing the bad guys through the bad guy village. Then, you know, and like if chafing occurs, you just, you know, you've got it like right in your back pocket. Thanks to Casey Roman. You're welcome. I hope he appreciates this, honestly. Sometimes I wish I had a friend like me. I mean, how often can you buy stuff like this and get away with it? So I have the whole Manscaped set. The only thing that I'm disappointed that I missed is there's like a kit, like a carrying case for all of your Manscaped products. And it's called the Nutsack, and I didn't see that on the website, and I'm upset that I missed that, but, like, I've got to get this stuff in the mail. I can't wait any longer, so maybe for his coming home party, I'll gift him the Nutsack. I'm never going to get through this video. Anyway, I will put links to all this stuff below, because I ordered it all online, because, like, you know, you're not allowed to go outside unless you want to get shamed. Turkey jerky? Holy shit, jerky is expensive. I got turkey jerky because no one is eating baby moo on my watch. I know he eats meat, but I am not going to buy dried baby moo for him. The turkey, fine. No turkey has looked at me in the eye with their soulful big eyes and big eyelashes and said moo. So, okay. Now, I'm fully aware that men don't use calendars or, like, you know, anything that's not a tool in their shed. What am I doing? I'm doing it opposite. But someone suggested on Patreon, like, something that reminded them of home. And I couldn't really send heroin syringes, which would remind people of Wilmington. So I thought about my photography, because that's, of everything that I do, my photography is like, that's what I do for joy. And I really, it's really like my stress release. So my pictures mean a lot to me, an awful lot. And so I ordered this custom calendar, and on the bottom it says countdown to return flight home. So I get it. I know that guys don't use calendars, but I tried to combine two things. So I took all my favorite photos. This was the first photo that I ever took when I first bought a digital camera. It's an old couple, and they have this barn, and it's down this like windy road out in the country, and they had painted the flag on this old barn. And the reason this photo is so special to me is because, one, it was the first one I ever took with a professional camera, and two, they have like fallen into bad health and they stopped painting the barn, and so this is like completely worn off. So the photo was like a once in a lifetime. And with him being in the military and everything, I'm really, that photo means a lot to me. It's not my best one by far. But so anyway, I took like, old barns, and there's just all the months. This is a tobacco barn. So I won't go through all those, but, so I did put like some actual thought into some of these, not just complete bullshit. All right. I'm not going to take this out of the bag because he should be the first one. Well, first of all, did you see what that is? I'll put up the picture of the Amazon, the full-blown link, and then this I'm just going to like wrap separately. Again, my original vision was that this was all going like to some war-torn area, and that it would be really funny to like have this walking around whatever, the barrack or like whatever they call it, with a bunch of guys. But I was told that like this will not get through any of the checks, so it's just a funny thing to have. I think it's funny. Lighten up. Okay. And then Rambo socks. Rambo. Again, thought this was going abroad, so I ordered Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sheets, Heroes in a Half Shell, also featured a badass named Casey. And the thought here was that a member of Patreon said that they have horrible sheets over there and like the horrible beds. And so I was gonna get really nice sheets because, oh god, like when you live in an RV or a van on the road, which is way more luxurious than fighting abroad, just like when you have nice bedding, oh, it's so nice. So, but then I saw that like really nice sheets were like $150. So, and I feel like I've already done my job here. So, I decided it was going to be this or some kind of Disney princess. I thought that both would be equally as entertaining to everybody else that he's with. But I ultimately decided with Heroes on a Half Shell because I thought that maybe this was a little bit more appropriate. I'm not going to show you what's in there. There's no way. And then I forget what this is. Oh! Okay, last thing. Again, if you're fragile. So, I was thinking about the flight over. Look at this. This is like Christmas. I was thinking about the flight over, and I thought, oh god, all those hours on that dreadful plane with all those stinky men. I should get him an activity book. Because, like, I, like to read when I'm on a plane. But somehow I don't think that he's going to peel through Marcus Aurelius's biography on the plane. So I tried to find inappropriate coloring books. And I found those. Whoa, did I find those. But then you'd have to carry, like, a whole coloring set. And that was too much. So I found an activity book. And it's called Play with My Boobs. And it's just, I've actually not seen this. I don't know if I can show that on the, oh look, so nice like little word games, right? All referencing boobs. And, look at that. Look at that. You can circle the bra that looks best on her. Yeah. That one's a little graphic. That one's really graphic. Lots of nipple. Can't show that on the internet. Okay, alright, that's all we get with that. But yeah, isn't that just, again, I think that the flight over, because you're bored, and then, like, you can get your other military buddies together and, like, help her pick a bra. That's my vision. I think I may, find the word knockers. Yeah. I may, like, start a few of these for him, like, you know, to help him out, since I know more about boobs than he does. Wow. All right. So I'm going to put all these together and put them in this fantastic packaging, and they're going to get shipped. And with that, I will just say that in this day and age, with what's going on in the world, it's really easy to forget that we still have men and women who are fighting abroad. And right now, you know, me in particular, I know I'm bitching every single day of the week that my freedoms and liberties are being taken from me. But, you know, in reality, I've retained a tremendous amount of them. And for the most part, I can still go around my daily business. I have a couple limitations that truly suck, but, like, other than that, you know, I'm good. And I can do all that. And the United States can do all that is because a bunch of badasses ensure our right to do so. And it's really easy to forget that. I forget it. No blame placed. I don't ever think on a daily basis about all the people that are headed away from their friends and family to go do a job that I'm not brave enough to do. So I hope you all, instead of writing something stupid, mean, or some of you write some really funny stuff in the comment section, maybe we'll dedicate this video to saying thank you to all of our servicemen and women, especially the ones who I'm about to really entertain as they go abroad in the next couple weeks. And, or even better, write me a little note about your grandfather or father or husband or whoever serves in your family. And instead of not making any use of the comment section, we'll actually put it to good use and do some sharing about the people who give us the ability to enjoy all this without having to think about it. Okay? So I'm going to go put a big bow on this. Okay, you saw the penny countertop. No issues with that so far. I think it looks great. But when I looked at the penny countertop with the cabinets, it just looked a little too dark. I really don't like the color of these cabinets, but I also don't like refinishing cabinets at all. I'd rather put new ones in, to be totally honest with you. So I thought, well, that's a small piece. I'll repaint those cabinets. And a lot of people repaint their RV cabinets. A lot of people also get angry if you don't use chalk paint. I don't know what the obsession is with chalk paint. Anytime I've had to redo a cabinet, I've always painted it with enamel, because enamel has a chemical structure that once it cures, it's really strong and sturdy, which for something that has like high touch or just ability to scratch is what you want. Let me give you a tip about repainting RV cabinets. Tip number 1, don't. It sucked. It was like a cabinet space that was this big. It took so many days. It took a ton of coats because I was covering a very dark brown cabinet with white. It was horrible. Awful, awful, awful. But now it's done, and now I have this beautiful bathroom that is all kinds of babe cavey, babe bussy in there. It's totally me. I love it. It looks great. I gotta start tearing apart that back bedroom now, and I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do back there. It will probably involve a chandelier and a koi pond, but the vision hasn't come to me yet. So until then, I'll see you later, weirdos.